with my boy Magnifico, man. How you doing, Victor?
I'm doing great. Good to see you, sir.
Man, what a journey has been so far for you, man.
Oh, it's been great. It's been quite a journey. Fighting here in Texas. I feel like Texas has always been the hub for MMA. I think first it was Houston, and slowly the Dallas-Fort Worth area began to grow, and things and people like you just began to just pour into the sport and contributing to the growth of it. And here we are.
Yeah, it's been a long journey, man. I've covered a bunch of guys, and especially you in particular. I first met you at LFA number one when the first two promotions merged, and they had their first show. They had you fighting on the card, but you didn't get to fight. The show ended, and they had
Yeah.
you fighting on the post limbs.
Post limbs.
People was already leaving. Pat and John were doing their interviews, and y'all fighting in the background, man. Do you remember that fight?
I do remember that fight. Yeah, it was the post limbs. I remember being scheduled, within the fight, and then being told that we were gonna be bumped because they had to begin at a certain time. And I thought, man, so how much longer? And they said about 3 more hours. And I thought, damn, well, what do I do? Is it just relax? So it was just a wait. I think it wasn't done till midnight, but we waited, and at first you don't really think about it. You don't really think about how you want to be seen, how you want to be televised, how you want to be in front of the camera. You don't want to be in the prelims. You want to be in the main card, and you get pushed to the post limbs. You don't think about that. You just say, hey, you're fighting. This is when. This is who. You show up, and then we just got it done.
Yeah, you went out there, and it was a hell of a fight. You got the dub, man. And then from there, history played itself out. You continue your career at LFA. I think you fought at a couple other promotions. LFA 100.
Yeah.
You get your title shot. So full circle on that one. So you started at number one. You come back on 100, and you get the title shot. Talk to me about that night.
That was a wonderful night. It was during COVID, so during Kansas. It was in Kansas in the Park City, and the arena was empty, completely empty during COVID. It was February, around this time of year, and it was my second fight during the COVID scene. So nobody was there, no crowd. At first, I really like it. It was just like training, just at the gym, just the people who are in it, the coaches, the fighters. I would say a very intimate experience because you only hear your partner breathing. You can hear the coaches saying the directions. You can hear everything that it's going on in the cage. It is not drowned by the crowd. It is not drowned by the people, cheering. It's just right there, all focused. Everybody's focused on you. You are focused on you and your opponent. And it was like, nothing different, and at the same time everything around you was different. It was almost like a test of discipline, a test of focus to let you know, hey, am I doing this because I want to be seen and I want the people to cheer me on, or am I doing this because this is what makes me feel alive, this is what makes me want to do it, this is the passion that I live for. And I think that during that time it was really good because the UFC also did it at the Apex with no crowds. And it showed about a lot of the fighters who shows up to fight because they're fighters and who shows up to fight because they just like the show. Both great athletes, both types of people, amazing fighters, but different disciplines show up whenever that happens.
Man, your answer is a testament to your maturity. Even back then when I would interview you, you would come up with these answers like that, man. And then, a lot of fighters probably would have, said whatever, but for you to explain it that way, gives a different view to the fans how to look at it. Because some people say, oh, I want to fight with the crowd, and it is true. I mean, if you want to do this, it could be one person in there or 20,000 people in there. You win the title. You get your shot on the Contender Series. You get a win there. What was that like? That experience, getting that call up to the Contender Series, and then just a few months after you win the title, and you get your shot in front of Dana White.
It was a really wonderful experience to win the title. I mentioned it in the interview after the title where it was the first time I felt proud of myself. You know, this whole time I had been fighting prelims and postlims. You know, I went from not being in a televised card to being the main event. I didn't really get a chance to be in the main card. I just went from prelims to postlims to main event. And that was a really wonderful experience because, you know, it showed me that at the end of the day, like I mentioned, it didn't really matter when, who, and who was there to fight. I just went to fight. And after that fight, I was waiting for the call. I was waiting to see what next. Am I going to defend the title? Am I going to move up to the UFC? Am I going to go to the Contender Series? I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew I was eager to do it, and I knew that I had to do something big. It was a point in my life in which I knew that my growth as an athlete had to take a big step, and if it didn't, I would have to retire from the sport. I was about to begin a family, and you know, it's really hard to continue the sport whenever you're not making a good living,
Especially on the local circuit.
especially in the local circuit. So at this certain point in my career, I was expecting and hoping for the best because I do want to continue. I do want to continue giving, contributing to the sport, to the fans, to myself, to my contemporaries, to my students, to myself, for this passion that I have. And at that moment, I was just hoping that I would get the chance to do that. Me becoming a dad around that time of the year, around that phase of my career, really make me questions like, well, what if it doesn't happen? Are you gonna give up on fighting? And I would say that unfortunately, I would not have given up on the sport, but I would have had to quit fighting because, you know, my personal life, my family is more important. You know, you don't really think about other people when you're single, when you don't have kids. But once kids enter your life, you want to make sure that they have the best that you can give them. And it's a lot more difficult to be selfish when that happens. And luckily, grateful I am that I got the call to the Contender Series. So I was super excited, super eager to show the world that, hey, let me continue with this. I got so much more to show you. I got so much more to show myself, so much more to give to everything that I've been given years to. And I was super grateful to be able to continue to do that. And I won the Contender Series, a wonderful experience. And then we entered the big show. And we are here once again, about to do it again.
Man, you're talking about how you want to provide for your family. Where were you born at, Victor?
Where?
Yeah.
I was born in Mexico City.
And you know, you came to the states. You know, your family brought you to the states. You know, as everyone comes to, you know, make them sacrifices to, you know, have a better life, and you do that. And a child really doesn't know what a parent's sacrifice, what they mean until they become adults or parents themselves. Did you recognize that
Oh,
the
I
sacrifices?
recognize that. I recognize it so hard. You know, it's a little personal, but I'll share it. I'll share some details. I didn't have the best relationship with my dad whenever I became an adult, whenever I was in my 20s. And for 10 years, I didn't speak to him. And the day that I was told I was going to have a child, I thought, what good of a dad do I want to be? How good of a father do I want to be? You know, how do I teach my kid everything that's good? How do I teach my kid how to be a good person, how to have compassion, how to be a hard worker, how to, you know, be forgiving? And then I said, well, how about we start by practicing it ourselves? How about we start by connecting with my dad? How am I going to learn how to be a good dad if I don't connect with my dad? You know, whether he's a good dad, the best dad in the world, or the worst dad in the world, you know, we all have those relationships with our parents in which we think they're the worst or we think they're the best. But nonetheless, he is the person who's going to show me the best that he can and understand what I'm going through because he is my dad. So that day, I found out that I was going to have a kid. I called my dad, and after 10 years, and I said, hey, you're going to be a granddad. You're going to be a granddad. And then we just caught up, and it's really wonderful because the kids give you that. Had I not had that kid, had I not had this gift of my child, I would still not have this gift of my dad either. And then I realized with my kid growing up and right now, all the sacrifice that my dad and my mom probably had to go through, that I'm going through right now, and I'm super grateful, and I love them both. So thank you very much.
Man, I appreciate you sharing that story with us, man. You know, everyone has their own story, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. You know, everyone wants the perfect relationship with their parents, but you know, sometimes life is not like that, man. You know, so you come over here. You know, you grow up, you start doing MMA. When did you start doing MMA?
I started fighting. I started training actually to help out with my friends who were fighting at Piquataga. They were Daniel Lemons was about to have a fight, and I had been training for about a year or two already, and I had already a good background in striking. I was beginning to grapple, and so I was really grateful that they asked me to help out in their camp. And as I was doing it, they said, "Hey, why don't you fight? You should fight. Try fighting." And so I thought, yeah, let's give it a shot. I am here all the time. I do train, both, and I am in the fight camp. So why not? And then I think I was about 22 or 23 when I had my first fight, and I liked it. And I thought this is the best place to test myself. This is where I need to be if I want to know how am I growing as an athlete, how am I growing as a practitioner, how am I growing as an artist. Well, you gotta test yourself to do that, and the best way to do that is to fight, to compete. If you're not a fighter, if you only do jiu-jitsu, compete. If you are a striker, compete. That is how you test yourself. That is how you grow as everything you want to grow into.
Man, could you imagine back then? You know, during those training and spending lots of hours, and then your amateur career. That one day, that obviously everyone wants to make it to the big leagues, to UFC, but you're going back home.
Oh yeah.
It's another circle. You come to the States, you work, now you get to go back home as a UFC fighter representing your country, and that's, that's the American dream, is what everyone wants. But your roots are deeply rooted in Mexico. Now you get to go back home, and it's like the oldest cliche. Si se
Yeah.
puede. Follow your dreams. You can do it. Has that hit you yet? Like you said, you always been on the prelims, post limbs before. Now you're gonna be, UFC Mexico, the arena, um, in front of 20,000 plus fans, here to watch you, and has that hit you yet? You're gonna go back home.
Yeah, it's hit me several times throughout, since I was given the news of this fight. And something that really helps me realize what is it that about to happen is knowing that everything that has transpired and everything that's brought me to this place was just my will, my discipline, my focus, my passion for what is it that I love to do. And regardless of what goes on outside of myself, regardless of the good things and the bad things that happen in my life, in my personal life, outside of the gym, regardless of all these things, whatever brought me to this point was the fact that I never abandoned my passion, my focus, and my discipline for the sport. So at the end of the day, I'm going home. I'm going home to display everything that I have done, everything that I have, worked for, and show it in the land that I was born. Not just the country, but that is my hometown. And I have to remember, to not overwhelm myself with this excitement, because the excitement of fighting in Mexico City, as wonderful it is, that's not why I made it to the UFC. The excitement of fighting in front of my family and my country is not the reason that I stayed in the martial arts. I stayed in it because I love it. Regardless of any nationality, regardless of anything outside of oneself, every athlete does what they do because they're passionate about it. And so I just remind myself, when I show up to Mexico City, I'm showing up not just as coming home, but as a practitioner of always giving my best. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give my best like I have been giving it all these years. There's going to be no difference. The only difference is that my home is going to see it.
Man, I think that's an awesome story, man. Your journey, and then you get to go back home. Do you still have family and friends out there?
All of my dad's family's there. My dad and all of my dad's family's there. Most of my mom's family's there. And I have, of course, wonderful friends that I've met every time I've traveled. And I'm grateful to say that some of those friends, most of those friends, are also practitioners. So I get to now reconnect not only with my culture, but I get to reconnect with my culture and my passion at the same time with my contemporaries who live there.
And you're going to be sharing the card with a bunch of other Mexican great fighters. Brandon Moreno, Ortega.
El Loco
Jair.
Torres.
And many more other guys. Man, how does that feel to share that experience with so many of your peers?
It feels really wonderful. I wish that I knew them more personally because I know that it would feel even better. Unfortunately, I don't, but it already feels amazing to be able to share that card, in our land, in our country, with our people.
Yeah, because Brandon's story. It's almost like yours. He gets he made it to the tough show, gets picked last, gets cut, loses, come back. And then he ends up winning the world title. Not once but twice. Do you ever see that happening in your career or as a goal? I know,
Yeah.
like you say, you stay on the path, and but do you see that happening with you?
Yeah, every athlete should. I do. That's the goal. That's the epitome. That is the reason why we do this. Is not just to be good, but be the best.
And during your training camp, like I said, you meet your teammates. What advice do you give them, like, the up and coming guys, that you work with, and you see them, and then what advice do you give them that you didn't get during your upcoming?
Oh, I almost had that answer, but then you said that I didn't get, because I got a lot of really good
Oh well,
advice
I'm
from
just
many
assuming, man. My
people.
bad.
But if I would say something that I didn't get, but I did learn by watching others, so they indirectly did give it to me, is maintaining your inspiration. Always maintain your inspiration. And that inspiration can change from day to day. It could be, today I'm inspired to tap this person. Today I'm inspired to make sure that I run my miles under a certain amount of time. It could be anything. It could be any little thing. It could be any big thing, like I'm going to win the belt next year. But without the inspiration, you don't wake up wanting to do anything. And you wake up already going through the motion. So my advice is, whatever your inspiration is, make sure you find it every day.
Man, that's pretty inspiring right there. I mean, you're gonna be inspiring, your country, not only your country, but even kids over here. Gonna look up to you one day and say, I want to be like Victor. And it's very inspiring, Victor. I mean, just watching your career. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Becoming a new father. How's that going? How's that balancing out?
It's
Fatherhood.
wonderful. It's really cool. It really tests my patience. It takes everybody's patience, of course, being a dad. But the thing that really, really helps put it all together is the fact that your children will have dreams too. Your children are going to want to do something wonderful with their life. And the best thing that one can do is lead by example. And if I follow my dreams, if I do whatever I want to do, they're going to watch me do it, and they're going to say, well, let me do mine. And even if it's not fighting, I want them to do theirs.
Man, let's talk about this fight coming up. How do you feel you match up with your opponent?
I feel it's going to be a great fight. He likes to bang. He likes to trade leather. So I'm really excited to do that. I feel like it's going to be a good show. Mexico, they like to see that. They like to see the putazos. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a dynamic bout.
Your last fight was against Tim Elliott. You didn't get the win there. But what's it like training over there now with him? You put the ego aside, and iron sharpens iron. You get to work over there with him, pick his brain, and out there at Next Generation, Frisco. I mean, shout out to Chris.
Shout out.
They got a bunch of up and comers
Killers,
there,
yeah.
killers. I mean, Lucas.
Oh, yeah.
What's it like, getting some training over there with them guys?
It's wonderful. You know what I love about that place is that everybody's an MMA fighter in the camp, right? Everybody's active, everybody's competitive, and everybody is disciplined. We show up, we start on time, we work hard. If someone's slacking, they're not gonna take it easy on you just because you feel bad. They're gonna make sure that they bring it, and you better wake up, you know. So we hold each other accountable. This is something really wonderful that I like about this place. And working with Tim, it's really good. He's really good at making sure that he pumps you up. He tells you, hey, this is how you're doing. Don't let go. Don't give out. Just keep pushing. Keep doing it. He's an amazing person to have in the camp. And not only does he do that with his attitude, you know he's doing it well because of his experience. He's been in the game for a long time. So I'm super grateful to be there, super grateful that he's there, and super, excited to see the growth that's going to happen in the future with this team.
Man, I can't wait for this fight, man. I'm just excited for you. On a personal level, I always root for all the guys that that we talk to, interview, that we see come up. Regardless, win or lose, we're always gonna be by your side and back you up, man. Any shout outs you want to give out to family, friends, or sponsors, Vic?
Yeah, well, give a shout out to Oren, my manager, KO Reps. Shout out, of course, to everybody in Next Gen, Chris, Austin, Tim, Lucas, everybody, the whole team. Awesome fights, by the way, that we showed up last week. Wonderful performance, as always. Shout out to James Vic, where I run the other half of my camp. All his fighters are killers, too. And a shout out to mi familia aquí y en México. Los amo, los veo pronto.
Man, you can catch Victor next Saturday at UFC Mexico on the February 24th. You don't want to miss this fight. And best of luck to you, man. And I wish you nothing but the best, Victor. And I appreciate the time, you talking with us.
Of course, anytime.